Before we get into the agenda and the speakers today, just wanted to highlight, the value of the topic and why we think it's so pertinent given today's times. We'll be speaking about data protection and its role in modern security and cyber response strategies. Commvault as a whole has been a leader in the data protection space for 2 decades plus. And one thing that we constantly hear from our customers is managing their data is difficult, right? If we look at the data footprint, if we look at the data estate that needs managing and protecting today, it's very vast and it's only further growing, right? We have things in the data center like legacy apps or maybe applications that we're repatriating. We have data that's moving to the cloud or what's increasingly common, multiple clouds. SaaS application adoption, which has further increased velocity since the pandemic, and then things like data at the edge and containers, right? So we look at the data state, it looks drastically different than it did a few years ago. And as we progress into the future, it will continue to change, right? So no matter where data lives, one common principle persists, right? It all needs protecting. Now, the challenges, the threats that we'll be speaking about today, they too have changed. Sometimes we thought historically about data protection in the lens of site failure, natural disaster, corruption, right? If an admin or a user accidentally hits that red delete button, right, wipes something out, how do we get our data back? And while those use cases still persist, we're up against new threats, specifically ransomware, cyber threats, internal bad actors. These threats are particularly insidious and really hard to protect from. It's challenging businesses of every size around how we protect our data during the backdrop of these threats. They're stealthier, they're faster, they're designed to do more with your data and damage you in new and unique ways, topics that we'll be addressing here today. But given the backdrop of these threats, how do we advance data protection beyond what we know today? And some conventional thinking is that, hey, I have perimeter defenses, I have security tooling, we're going to build our walls as high as possible to prevent intrusion and breach. And while that's still true, we looked at last line of defense scenarios around data protection, often referred to as backup, right? It was reactionary, it was post-event. It came in when damage was already done, and this was your last utility to get your businesses back online. And we believe this middle area here, bringing together security tooling and data protection, provides more proactive capabilities to further advance data protection, but also improve how we respond to cyber events, how we respond to incidences, how we get our businesses back online. And if we can effectively do this, the benefit for businesses, the benefit for customers at large is we can see more, we can minimize the blast radius, we can improve and accelerate responses so a brush fire doesn't turn into a wildfire, right? It's all about more proactive capabilities, joining these technologies together to provide new benefits for customers that get us on our front foot when it comes to protecting and recovering our data and not on our back foot. So throughout the presentation today, what we'll be speaking about is really how Commvault's delivering next generation data protection capabilities in the domains of securing data, making sure it's resilient, defending data, being able to anticipate threats and defend that data, as well as what we provide in terms of response. And a combination of these capabilities really focused on how we empower businesses to be more proactive, to break down barriers between IT and security, and fuel the best outcomes when it comes to keeping data compliant, safe, and recoverable, and minimizing impact and downtime. So we'll be touching upon all three of these in the presentation here today, and obviously mapping to what we know as the blueprint for addressing risk, the NIST framework, right? Capabilities and conversations around what best in class looks like as we look to identify, protect, monitor, respond, and recover.